Wait, you're telling me that this is one of those topics where it's really, really boring until it's really, really awful.
Yeah. And you don't want that to happen.
You definitely want that to happen. All right, Matt Robison, Mike Morton, financial life planning. This is one of those topics that we don't like to talk about it, right? Like we don't like to get into it. There's a lot of this that comes up in financial planning where it's like, oh, this feels like homework. And this is one where when you sent it to me, this is one where in a flash, it was like, well, if you do by the time you're done listening to this, if you do 5 minutes of homework, you could save $100,000. That seems worthwhile.
Hey, that goes back to your, per hour. What are we saving per hour? So 5 minutes, Matt, could save you $100,000.
$1.2 million.
$1.2 million an hour.
Bigger and bigger. Yeah. So what we're going to do, this is going to be a little bit of a journey here, is we're going to go through what seems like a boring topic, and you're going to give us the stuff. Actually, as I was reading through, like you sent me a few notes on this, all kinds of things I didn't know, never thought about. And by the end of it, it'll turn into, so here's how you spend 5 minutes and you save yourself a lot of awful.
All right. Well, let's share what we're talking about, which is the great, exciting topic of insurance. One of your favorite things to tune
just
in.
Just saying it, but I, if it's not enough for people to hear that, like, this is all going to turn into 5 minutes is really worth your time, hang on for the very end where we really will have 5 minutes where we'll find out how another one of Mike's prescriptions went. Because you tried it, you made yourself the guinea pig. And I can't wait to find out. All right. Yeah. So we're talking about not just insurance generally, but homeowners insurance.
Homeowners insurance. It's so exciting, Matt. You don't sit around at night and read the declaration page of your homeowners insurance policy?
I didn't know there was a declaration page. This makes it sound like Thomas Jefferson did it. Like, is it good?
The declaration.
Do they spell the S's like F's?
I don't think they do that anymore because it's all PDFs.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, you don't know declaration pages? It's on your auto insurance, your home insurance. That's where all the good stuff is. We don't have to read through the 30 pages.
I think I'm right about this. I think I'm right. Maybe I'm not. I think most people are like me when it comes to insurance. They want to engage with it as little as possible. Just give me the TLDR, give me the bottom line. This literally happened to me this morning. As we were getting ready to get on for this show, I got my auto insurance renewal. And first of all, we're not sponsored by any insurer, but I have to say, I switched from the Lizard to the Peppy Lady, and I saved a lot of money. I really did. Like, I saved thousands of dollars. So that was awesome. And I got my renewal thing. And of course, it's filled with behavioral economics, psychology nudges to make it as simple and easy as possible. It's like, click this one button and everything will be done. And I did that, and it was great.
And it felt good.
But part of what you're saying is, don't just do that.
Part of what we're saying, here's the TLDR. Speaking of TLDRs in this episode, you want to make sure that your home insurance will cover the cost of your home. All right. So you want to make sure that the coverage for your home insurance, the amount that is going to be paid, will cover you in case of a disaster to your home. Your home is one of the largest assets that you own. And so you want to make sure that it's covered. So that's what, that's the bottom line, is that's what you want to do.
But isn't that the whole point of, like, they do an assessment or whatever of like what my home is worth? Like, I mean, shouldn't that all they did that a few years ago. Like, shouldn't that be taken care of?
Well, you would think so, but you really want to double check. No, there's all kinds of factors that we can get into. Factors of, inflation, what kind of coverage was there, liability issues, right? So there's a few different areas that you want to make sure you have the right coverage. And probably, Matt, as you said, when was the last time that you reviewed your homeowner's insurance? Is it the right amount of coverage?
So talk to me about the inflation piece of this, because how does that factor in?
So there's two ways that inflation can factor in for home insurance. One is just general inflation, that your home is worth more. And so you want to make sure the value of the coverage goes up. But the other that you don't think about very much is the replacement cost. If you have to rebuild your home, right? What are all the supplies and labor costs? They've been inflated as well. So they might be outpacing the inflation of your home value or what is in your policy. Cost of lumber. Remember that spike in the cost of lumber? Like there wasn't any. And then also, what if you're in a place where there's a lot of damage, right? We've seen some things recently, a lot of damage. And so suddenly the prices might be way higher, right? For getting those materials and those labors during a time of crisis. This is not just like, oh yeah, there's plenty of home builders and they've got some capacity. It's like all of a sudden you could be in a real problem for rebuilding stuff. So
I never thought of that. So it's different if, like, let's say you have a random kitchen fire, right? And you have to, that could be one thing. It's like, well, just the cost of labor and materials has gone up. The other thing could be, Hurricane Helene came through and now you're in an area where there's huge demand and limited supply for all of the materials and labor, and the price could really get spiked and you might not have enough insurance to pay for it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So you really, there's a few different factors when it comes to the inflation variable for looking at your homeowner insurance policy.
So if you're underinsured, is the risk here just like you're not going to have enough coverage and therefore you're going to pay through the nose?
That's exactly right. Paying through the nose is like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
By Matt Robison.
Yeah. Brought to you by Keeping It Simple. I mean, so if you have $500,000 of coverage, right, and you have a disaster to your home, it needs to be rebuilt, and it costs you $700,000. Well, here's a $500,000 check from the insurance company, and you're covering all the rest. So it's really, that's the simple way of thinking about it.
Got it. All right. So this next bit of the show, I don't know, maybe we should make this a recurring segment, but could you walk us through? I feel like this is the kind of thing that they should offer. You know how they used to have home ec? Do they still have home ec?
No, I know. No, it's all been scrubbed out. You don't even get PE anymore. It's all like academics. Sit in your chair, sit your butt in a chair, and just learn schooling academics all day long.
So how we've talked before about how they should have like personal finance in high school. Like that would be amazing. It's like, explain to me how to read a homeowner's insurance policy, like just how to skim it, like what's in it, what should I pay attention to? That would be useful information. I think information I should have learned a long, long time ago. For example, I didn't know there was such a thing as a Declaration of Independence page.
Yeah. And luckily, Matt, you didn't give your normal, this would have been useful information a few days ago. So luckily you're still in your home office. Everything's in good shape over there.
Yes, I haven't done anything. I did my auto insurance this morning. I have not done my homeowners, but actually this really did happen to me. This was 2 years ago. All of a sudden our homeowners insurance, just like the cost went through the roof. Yeah. And I called them and I was like, Mr. Unhappy Consumer. I was like, what are you doing to me, you people? This is highway robbery. And they're like, yeah, the cost of everything has gone way up, sir. And I'm like, aha, I didn't think of that. So, I guess they factored it in, but I guess not everyone is doing that. And you have to check yourself. All right. So what am I looking at when I look at my homeowner's policy? Like what's in there?
So again, the homework here is going to be 5 minutes. It's going to be really simple. You're going to go to your website, either the Lizard, the Peppy Lady, or somewhere else. And you're going to look for that declaration page. So there really is a declaration page. It's right there at the front. And what it has on there is your specifics. Okay. So it'll have some numbers and stuff that's yours. Now, if you keep scrolling, which you won't, but if you did scroll further, now it's all just, legal garbity gook stuff. Okay. So the declaration page has your stuff, and that's what's important. So let's walk through a couple of things you'll see there. The most important is the dwelling coverage. All right. Dwelling being your main home. So that's the number you're really dialing in on. Dwelling coverage. All right.
You ever see that Simpsons where Marge tries to become a realtor and on the exam, she's like, what the heck is a dwelling? When was the last time you used the word dwelling in casual conversation?
Yeah. I'm just looking around. This is where I dwell. I spend most of my time dwelling here.
Oh my gosh. How to sound like a jerk. It's like, tell me about your dwelling.
What are people in the insurance use that? Oh yeah, welcome to my dwelling. Welcome to my dwelling.
Right. immediately they don't even have to put things in Latin, and it's like, I'm already lost. All right, okay, so your dwelling coverage.
Dwelling coverage. So there's other things. There's other structures that'll be on there. Personal property. So that's another one. Personal property will be listed. Actually, Matt, usually I find this number to be quite large compared to what is inside your house. So it is literally the stuff inside your house. Yeah, it'll usually be over like $100,000 or more.
I guarantee it's not that for me.
No, it will be. The declaration. Okay, so we'll bring that up. The declaration page. Oh yeah, they just put it in there as like a pretty big number. I don't think it costs them much because no one's going to claim that stuff, because I'll tell you how you have to do that, which is taking pictures of everything in your home and having a list of like everything that you own somewhere.
Dude, but okay, can we just dwell on this for a second? Is that for real? Because I feel like for other parents out there, my wife and I have this conversation all the time where we're like, we are not getting nicer things for the next few years because our kids are just going to destroy them, exactly. Like absolutely annihilate everything we own. It all is crap. It's everything we have is hand me down, and we're not. Now look, I've met your wife before, and she has she's such taste in decor. So I know that you don't do this, but like, so maybe it's true of you, but I don't know. Is that you have like a billion clients? Like, is this really true of most people?
Matt's welcome to my dwelling. It's full of crap. I have 3 kids.
I have so much crap. I have probably and the stuff that I have that was once expensive,
right?
Like you and some other friends of mine, when I was getting married, like this is decades ago, got us a big television. You all chipped in for it, and we still have it. And it is fully depreciated. Okay, like I could not resell this for $50 right now. So is it really true?
You got to pay to give that away, Matt.
Yes, someone would have to carry this thing. It literally weighs more than the rest of it.
Literally, I think you'll have to pay someone to take.
If there is a tornado, my house is going nowhere because the TV will weigh it down.
That's right. So yeah, I do find personal property coverage to be pretty excessive. I haven't run into a situation where my clients have lots of like artwork, or rare copies of things or jewelry that would add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is usually what's in there. So we'll put it, Matt, I want an update at a future episode of what you find is your personal property coverage on the declaration page of your home insurance.
I'm happy to give this because I think it's going to be a low number and it's a disincentive for people to try to come rob my house. I think as I really think about this is like me, forget buying ADT. Today's episode not brought to you by ADT. Forget that. I'm just going to tell people there's nothing worth stealing in my house. I think the most valuable thing, now that I really think about it, most valuable object I own is a tiny piece of artwork that I brought from your brother-in-law, who's a very, very talented artist.
Not the brick of the Empire State Building, which is, I guess, still in the Empire State Building.
It's not in my house.
It's not in your house.
State Building. That's a story from a old
Let's move on.
We've got dwelling. We've got personal property.
Yep. Loss of use coverage is another one that's in there. So they'll give you some, daily or monthly allotment towards if you have to move out of your home. So you have some water damage, you've got to really, remediate, you've got to move out of your home. So loss of use coverage, kind of like that, rental car, you're used to that too. Like if your car is in the shop, sometimes they'll give you loss of use.
Again, I don't need this because we're coming to stay with you.
That's right. And finally, liability coverage is another one. There'll be medical payments, which will be really low, like $1,000 or $5,000. But the liability coverage will be in there. Now, this one is if someone gets hurt on your property, some great friend of yours, and then they decide to sue you. So that's the liability part. Your homeowners insurance will cover it. But this one, I will say, I'll put a plug in for getting umbrella insurance. All right, we won't talk about umbrella today, but it's a really inexpensive, sits on top of your home and your auto, and it really covers you for millions of dollars in case someone decides to sue you.
Let's go back to the first item, which I think is the most straightforward for me to connect to, which is the dwelling, the building itself. So explain to me why the increase, if there has been one, in home value or the assessment of home value may or may not cover what happens. Let's say there's a kitchen fire. This is something that happened in our family, not to my house, but just an example. So there's a kitchen fire. You've got to like remediate. You got to rebuild. So like, wouldn't the home value cover that, or no, not necessarily?
Yeah, you'll probably be all right in that case because it's not the entire home. Really, what we're looking at is the entire home. So you have a kitchen fire,
more like Hurricane Helene.
Yeah, or a kitchen fire that burns down. Like you're not at home and it sets fire and like catches fire, and by the time the department comes there, it's like your house is basically ruined. You have to rebuild your house. So again, getting back to the top, there are two things to pay attention to. One is the absolute number. All right, I have found most of the time I look at dwelling coverages, and the number looks reasonable for a replacement cost. Hey, your home's worth about 700. Could you rebuild it for 700,000? Yeah, that seems reasonable to me. Like that's the number on there. That seems kind of reasonable for the cost to rebuild in your area. But I have run in a few times that it seemed low. Do you think you could rebuild for 600,000? Your home. So that's the first thing to look at. Just look at the pure number. If you need to rebuild your entire home, do you think that would cover it? And typically, even if you haven't reviewed it in a while, it does go up with inflation, Matt. So again, like, oh, geez, well, I'm going to leave you with, you should, check your declarations page and look at the number. But even if you haven't checked it in 5 years or more, typically it is increasing. There's inflation riders. So it has gone up since you first bought the coverage. So many times that number looks okay, but that's the first thing that you want to look at. Do you think you can rebuild for that cost?
As you were saying that, and people heard clicks in the background, you're not going crazy. I was typing. I was looking up on Zillow what Zillow says my current house price would be if we were selling it. And I started thinking, we did a little renovation. We expanded our kitchen a few years ago. This was before this big run up that you're describing in labor and construction costs. And I just tried to multiply out. If I had to rebuild our house from scratch, first of all, it would be a huge improvement because my house was designed by an architectural student who went on to an unsuccessful career and eventually went on to other things. No, seriously, it's like an MC Escher painting. It makes no logical sense whatsoever. Not complaining, just observing. But also, I think if I had to multiply what we paid for that house project by the whole square footage, it would not equal what the resale price would be right now. That's a little disturbing.
Yeah. So, a couple of things there, right? When you have a renovation, then make sure like, hey, we put in another say we put in $100,000 on a renovation. Hey, is your home coverage, maybe you need to increase your home coverage now. Your home is worth more. The other thing is, Matt, don't confuse the Zillow price, the market value also has land value built into that, right? So we're talking about rebuilding your home. And so you can kind of factor out the land price. So we're just talking about the house.
I see.
So there is that.
I'm also noticing that the photos here are from when we bought it, and oof.
Ooh.
Anyway.
Looking better or worse?
Well, like I said, everything in our house is crap. Exactly. So it looks much nicer inside.
I know, it's all empty.
Our kids went to work on things.
Yeah, it's all empty. It looks spacious.
That's right. So that's the replacement cost versus the market value, something to pay attention to. What you were mentioning before about like all the stuff that other people own that's nicer than mine. What do you look for there? Like how do you figure out what that's worth?
Yeah, before we get to the personal property, the other thing is the replacement cost, okay, for rebuilding. So that first thing to look at, do you think it's reasonable for, the amount of your home and kind of rebuilding your home? But the other thing is, will your insurance cover the full cost of rebuilding versus just that number? All right. So that's an important factor to know as well. Right. So the one is like, great, we're covered for 700,000. We think we could rebuild for 700,000. Our insurance will give us 700,000, up to 700,000. But what if you're in a natural disaster? Everybody's trying to rebuild. there's labor shortages, there's material shortages, and it costs $900,000. Even though you thought it was reasonable, like, hey, I think it'll be 700. What if it costs more? Are you going to be out that 200,000? So that's where you can look at getting the replacement cost covered, not just the dollar. Okay, so dig into your policy a little bit and see if now that will cost you more in a premium. All right, all of these things cost more. You want to increase values, you're going to pay more of a monthly, yearly fee on the premium to make sure you're covered. But again, your home is one of your largest assets. So I really encourage everyone to spend the money. Like that's what it costs to make sure that you're covered. I mean, the last thing, getting back to the big picture, what does insurance do? Insurance is to cover you for a low probability event. Most likely it's never going to happen. But if it does, it's going to be something that's going to wipe you out. All right. That's why we have homeowners insurance, let alone you have a mortgage and the mortgage company requires it. But if you owned your home outright, do you want to be on the hook for, $800,000 loss? What would that do to your personal finances?
Yeah. Right. Well, I think that's why what connected to me about all of this is that homeowners insurance is boring. It's a topic that is full of boredom, punctuated by a certain amount of awful. Like sometimes, very rarely, something awful happens. And I guess the mental conversion that I try to do with this is the other function of insurance is to give you that relief, that mental relief of you are covered. You're not going to have, because something bad has happened, clearly, like that doesn't erase the fact that something bad has happened, but you're not also going to be wiped out by it. That's what a relief. What a good feeling. So anyway, all right.
Correct.
So let's just cover you've got a lot of stuff. So like George Carlin here, it's like your house is where you keep your stuff. So anything you got to do around that?
Well, ideally, yes, but practically you're never going to do it. So first thing is, let's just be real.
That means don't worry about it.
That means don't worry about it. If you have particular items that you do really care about or that are valuable, yes, I would document it. So what you're supposed to do is go around and take pictures and make a list of stuff in your home. Now, what you could do, a low-hanging fruit, or easy thing to do would be just take pictures of every room and file that on some cloud drive. That at least you have take 100, go around your house for 30 minutes and just snap a bazillion
can I update
pictures.
This idea?
Yeah.
There's a video function on most people's phones.
There you go.
Just walk around your house or have your kids do it.
Yeah, right? There you go. School project.
My kids got into the Property Brothers a few years ago and they were like, I'm not making this up. They were like 5 and 7. And we were at the beach and they were like, let's go look at other places we might rent for our family vacation. And they went around doing this is lovely. It has an open concept. Anyway. So you can just have them do that, go around and here's the stuff.
Yeah, put it up on the cloud, and that's fine. Ideally, you'd make a list, right, as well. But I think, at least starting with the photos, video is a great idea. And if there are particular things, in your home, really document that stuff.
Right. Anything else, like you talked about umbrella policy, anything else you need to just check as you're doing this quick run through, just to make sure it's covered?
No, good question. I really pay attention to that dwelling number. Take a look at that. That's what I'm trying to keep it really simple. That's the big thing. There's a lot in there. So yeah, you could spend a few minutes kind of reading through it a little bit just to familiarize yourself. It's kind of interesting, the numbers that are in there, but yeah, just pay attention to the dwelling, pay attention to the replacement, if you're getting that replacement cost. And make sure it's in alignment with your home, that you have the coverage, right? Give yourself that peace of mind that I'm covered in case something were to happen.
So the 5-minute, the full circle bottom line on this, your 5-minute piece of homework that will really give you that relief if anything should ever happen and avoid that hundreds of thousands of dollars in your face is just open it up. Don't wait. Yeah. Go through. Take a look at the numbers.
4.5 minutes of that will be you finding your login to get the declaration page. So it's really pretty fast.
I use one password, but of course I never would have set it up. Right.
That's right.
But yes, that's why a password manager can be extremely helpful.
There you go.
Right. So you look, you check out the numbers, call up your agent, hash it through. They would be delighted to have a conversation with you about this. And
That's right.
May cost you a few bucks, may cost you 5 minutes, maybe an additional 5 if you have to make a phone call. But like,
yeah,
it's worth it. It's way
well,
worth
yeah. And we talked, and so that's it for this episode. Pay attention to that declaration page and the number. Make sure that you're safe and you're covered. We also did talk about, if you're looking at insurance, your insurance probably gone up, like what you said. So I think we had an episode around shop your insurance and save yourself $1,000. And so Matt, you mentioned that you've done that. So that's the thing that
I did it for auto. Yeah.
You could do it for home and auto. These things creep up over time. So we're not going to get into that now, but get the declaration page, find the number, you're set.
Insurance companies are delighted when they discover that you're doing that. It's like, you're shopping around. Ooh.
Exactly.
Call me. All right. Speaking of creeping desperation, let's get to our one thing segment of the week. I got distinctly nervous when you introduced this idea a few episodes ago of give your kid the credit card and let him go to town. Yeah. You did this. You're a madman.
What could possibly go wrong?
It's been nice knowing you. No, wait. This was, explain to me first again why this was a good idea. I kind of remember. And second of all, you did this?
Yeah. This might be our last episode, depending on, or, exactly. Or please subscribe here and become a Patreon because my kids are running around waving their credit cards.
You know what? This would be a very different kind of show. Like what we go for is something that's very practical and actionable and make things easy and just like your financial life, like in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Simple version. We could do a different show, which is like watch Mike blow up his life. People like that kind of thing. It's called reality TV. We could do that. So anyway, tell me, you did this.
I did. So this was about boosting your teenager's credit score. One way of doing that is by giving them credit cards on your account. So you pay the charges, but they have a card. It's kind of like your spouse's card, but it's for your teenagers. So I did this. So one of the questions we had is like, how easy is this? Matt, turns out very easy. It took me less than 5 minutes
to add more people to the that I would not have figured.
Shocking. It was pretty interesting though. So I used the Fidelity Rewards card, was one of the cards. And so I went in there, I decided to use that one. So I went in the website, a couple of clicks later, I was like, oh, here's how you add. And it was like, boom, you have 3 kids and they sent 3 cards. So in the mail arrived 3 credit cards and my kids promptly took them and left the house.
I haven't seen them since.
But I'm getting the statements every month.
So, I mean, joking aside, is it okay?
No, it's totally great, actually. It was really cool to like talk to them about credit cards, how it works, versus, credit cards versus debit cards. Don't use this without asking, that kind of stuff. But I will tell you, Matt, this weekend, my youngest child went out with some friends, with an adult, took them out. And so she had her credit card. And so she was able to tap it, to get some food. So it's working really well. We've been to the mall and it's teaching them the checkout. So now they go to the counter, they tap the credit card, they interact with the clerk, right? So it's these kind of life skills that we talked about before, like implementing those and using a credit card. So it's so far, yes. It's working okay.
I'm noting that you're giving this update early.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? This is, if I've learned anything from Hollywood, it's like you're going to be Will Smith in a year, like trying to save the human race from the terror that you created. What was that movie where he like turned the entire human race into zombies?
Yeah, that's right.
And then he's like, he's on his own, like trying to. So okay,
that might be
if the world still exists.
Yeah.
We'll check back on this.
Yeah, my world might be gone.
All right.
But yeah,
with that,
good,
for Mike Morton and Matt Robison, we will see you next time, maybe.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for joining us on Financial Life Planning. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to and rate the podcast on Apple iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. It makes a massive difference. If you have a comment or question, please email me, mike@mortonfa.com. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. This recording is for informational purposes only and should not be considered for investment advice. Opinions expressed are as of the date of recording. Such opinions are subject to change. I cannot guarantee the accuracy or completeness of the data presented here.